the winter meeting edition of One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. And if you'll notice, Max isn't here. When Max is here, I think we're going to start calling the show One Cardinal, One Cub, One Beer, and an analytical voice of reason. I think that works. Okay.
I like that.
Even though he's a Cub fan, he's very analytical and
I really love when he's here. He really adds a lot to it.
Yeah. So, but he's I'm sure he's studying hard for finals right now, and we miss you, my baby boys. I do want to remind you to like us on Facebook. You can follow us on X, and you can contact us through onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. Please subscribe to our page by clicking on the icon at the bottom right-hand corner, or when the video is over, you can just go to the circle icon, click that, and you will be a member of our fold. You can support us through Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search for One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. And you can support our efforts for as little as $3 a month. Max is $10 a month. And hey, $3 a month. You can't go to Starbucks and spend less than $3. You can't. You can't go to Dollar Tree and spend less than $3. Well, I guess you can. But you get the drift. It's not that much. So it does help us out. And we are doing a contest right now called Guess the Cubby. And last week, the gentleman I had behind me was Mr. Ron Santo. And I think we had a record number of people make guesses, which is really cool. But the first one that came up was Tom Maget. And now Tom has 2 tallies. Mark Marinello has 1, and Kudur Lev has 1. We'll have another come up next week. And remember, this goes through spring training, and you're going to win a buttload of One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer merch. And you're also going to get a tickets for 2 to a Cardinal game. We're going to try to make it a Cardinal Cub game. And once again, how good the seats are is contingent upon our Patreon money. So
it's on you.
You could be in a 5-star hotel for the night and go to the game and sit in a suite, or you can just be you can be vending popcorn. I mean, that may be how we get you and your partner in there. But anyway, we do appreciate all people who have supported us and continue to support us through Patreon. So you can join if you would like. I was so excited for when this is going to be a fun program. This is going to be a lot of fun because it's winter meetings and a lot of stuff is going to happen. And it got off to a good start, and then it has just kind of been nothing but the same old rumors recycled and recycled and recycled. Are you as frustrated as I am, JJ?
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of rumors. Every team. At 1 hour, it looks like Ohtani's going here, and then over there. The Cubs are out of it. The Cubs are in it. You just never know. There's been a lot of re-signing of players. A few players aside. Kenta Maheda from the Twins is now a Detroit Tiger, and he got a 2-year deal. And I tell you what, that Tiger team with a lot of players leaving Minnesota, and I don't know what, maybe they have a bunch of young guys coming, but that Detroit team is going to be an up-and-coming team. That's going to be a fun team to watch. So keep an eye on them. They've made a couple moves, but that's what we're getting is just a few little moves. There was a big move at the beginning with the Mariners and the Braves, and then it's just come to a screeching halt. But man, I can't wait to see what happens. And maybe just some of the groundwork is being laid for some of the deals to come later, because I think that Ohtani deal is going to be a big one, and some of the Japanese players coming over.
I think everyone's just waiting for the Ohtani deal.
Yeah, I do too.
Because the teams that are in the Ohtani deal, if they don't get him, they're the ones who are going to be really active getting these other free agents and trying to trade for talent. So you did mention the trade between the Braves and the Mariners that started off the winter meetings. The Braves got Jared Kelenic, former Cardinal Marco Gonzalez, and first baseman Evan White. Evan White has just not hit at all in the big leagues. His average is well under 200. He's got some pop, but he really hasn't shown much in the big leagues. And in exchange, the Mariners are getting two right-handed pitching prospects. And yeah, it sounds like the Mariners are, dumping a little bit of salary. Um, Gonzalez is clearly on the back end of his career.
Yeah, you're right.
His ERA was north of 5. He had some good years. He won, I think, 16 games one year for the Mariners. He's had some good years there.
Nice
Um,
career.
yeah, but I mean, he's gonna go into that bullpen if he makes the team and pitch for the Braves. But Kellenic. Am I pronounced Kellenic? It's spelled Kellenic. I've heard it pronounced Kellenic and Kellenic. So I'm going to call him Jared. Jared had 11 home runs, hit 253, and had a 746 OPS last year. Okay. They played the Cubs 3 times. 3 times they played the Cubs all year long. Versus the Cubs, Jared Kellenic was 5 for 9 with 3 home runs and 2 walks. And I watched
Man.
this. I remember saying it on this very show. He has arrived, and he arrived in Wrigley Field. And I saw this guy bust down. He's going to be the all-star everybody thought he was going to be, and he just hasn't. And now the Braves are saying, hey, we're just going to platoon him. So you kind of get stuck with that in your career. That's kind of where you're at. So what do you think of the trade? I mean,
Well, they have a lot of hope for that shortstop. That's one of the reasons they didn't re-sign Swanson. They had this Vaughn kid, Grissom Vaughn or Vaughn Grissom. Anyway, he just didn't have a very good year last year, and it looks like he's going to play left field and platoon with this other guy. And it seems like one's a little better with left-handers, one's a little bit better with right-handers. I don't see why. And Marco, it's like he'll be I think he'll be the long reliever and emergency starter, because the last few years the Braves have incredible pitchers, but they seem to have a lot of injuries. So that'll be
yeah.
some insurance coming out of that bullpen. And we've seen the Rangers do that last year, and it really paid off. So maybe that's a thing now where you kind of load your bullpen up with a couple other alternative starters who can give the guys a day off or come in if a guy's a little banged up and give the guys a little relief. So maybe that's the new trend happening in baseball. It just looks like the Braves are shoring up their run next year, because I tell you what, that's a very talented young team over there. And the Mariners, it looked like you said the key word. I think they're dropping a little of their payroll, because I think they're looking to make a big impact. I heard today, rumors are rumors, but they're out after some of the big dogs this year, and Yamamoto might be one of those guys they're really going after. But they're pitching heavy. They need some hitting too. They got a few stars over there, but they've got pitching. It's their hitting that they need some help with. So we'll see what happens. But this is going to be fun. See what happens. I'd like to see the Cardinals get one of their young pitchers.
It seems to me if the Braves start the year with Gonzalez in the rotation, I'm not saying as a spot starter, but in the rotation, they're in trouble. They have some injuries, and or they didn't do very well in the off season getting some pitching. I look at him as that last guy in the bullpen, like you said, spot starter, mop up stuff. But you know what? Those guys get paid, and they're Major League Baseball players. And he's had a fine career. He's about 15 games over 500 for his career. And if he finishes with the Braves doing that and they win a World Series, I'm sure he's not going to complain at all. So,
no, man, that'd be a nice cap to your career right there.
yeah. And one move that's pretty good happened today. Kirby Yates, former All-Star closer for the Padres, he signed with the Rangers. So the Rangers are stockpiling the bullpen, looking to repeat. And Paul DeYoung signed a 1-year contract, which everybody, the White Sox, I was surprised that he signed for $1.75 million. He's got a bit of a track record. I would have thought he'd be about the 3.5 million mark. But I guess he had such a rough time after, especially after he got traded.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think didn't Toronto just DFA him and then San Francisco picked him up
Yeah,
and not much happened there.
they got him because Bichette was hurt at the time, and they were trying to make that run, and then he came back, and I think he only got one hit the whole time he played over there. He wherever he ended up, he came up a little bit better, but really the last 3 years, he's just been a shell of himself. He still plays a good defense. He always had the potential of power, but he hasn't done it. Maybe this, and I kind of thought there was a chance that with the way he's played and everything, he was kind of on the way out. He might have to go to the independent league or overseas and play, but he got a chance, and maybe he can make the best of it, and his value could go up. Because if you just have one good year and show other teams something, there'll be somebody out there wanting you. You know.
Well,
And
with Tim Anderson going to be gone from the White Sox, he's got a shot at being the starting shortstop. And I hope he does well. I hope he refines himself. I always liked him,
I did too.
and hope for the best with him. And you kind of brought this up. The American League Central, with the Twins losing their top starter and Maeda's probably their third, maybe fourth starter.
It's open.
Gosh, it's like the Twins were here and everybody else was down here, and then they decided, we'll go down here with everybody else. White Sox have to be better. They have to be better. So let's give them a bump. The Tigers, like you said, I like the Tigers. I
I
saw
do
them
too.
in the Cubs second half of the season. They look pretty good. Tigers are going to be a little bit better. The Royals, I mean, they're in that every 35-year cycles. It's got a while with the Royals. So but the Twins, gosh, who am I leaving out of that mix?
Let's see. You got the White Sox, you got the Twins, you got the Guardians.
The Guardians. Oh yeah, the Guardians. They're with their pitching, they may
Exactly.
be a favorite next year. Favorite next year.
They
Just
may I love that Stephen Kwan out in the outfield. That guy has got a lot of talent. They're a young team. That team that this will be the third year. A lot of these guys will be in their third year, and you kind of find out what you got. Maybe you come up, you make a bump, the league adjusts to you. You kind of go down a little bit. And that third year kind of tells you what kind of player you got. So I've always been a Cleveland fan. That's a great history of a team there. They're kind of turning the corner with a new manager this year. It'll be fun. It's going to be fun, and that Central's up for grabs. It's going to be a lot of good. It's going to be a good time this year.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
One of the big things that happened was this Veterans Committee elected one new member of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Jim Leland. And what was your thought? I agree. What do you think about old Jim Leland there?
I love Jim Leland because I think it was about 1991 he got in Barry Bonds' face and cussed him out, and it's
I
on
remember
it's
that.
on video. And he's got a we have a cat that's coming by the house, and we name all the cats that come by the house.
Okay.
Even if they don't stay, there's Uncle Orange or something like that. Well, the last cat that has been coming by, we have named Huge Face Big Balls. And Jim Leland earned that last name of Big Balls when he stood up to Barry Bonds and got in his face and told him how it was going to be.
Oh
So
yeah, and I've heard from many players that play on that Pirate team, they were with him 100%. It's kind of like that guy's a little out of control, and he was kind of running the team, and Leland stood up to him and told him how he felt. And Jim Leland, everywhere he went, he was a winner. He came up. He earned his stripes, working his way up through it. He never made the major leagues. He was a lifetime minor leaguer, worked his way up. I think one of his first jobs, he's very close to Tony La Russa, and Tony made him one of his coaches, I believe, when he was with the White Sox.
yeah,
Then in the Pirates, he won a world championship. He was manager of the year 3 times. And my input on Jim Leland was whenever the Cardinals played him, sometimes I'm not even sure who the manager on the other team is. I'm like, who is their manager? But when it was a Jim Leland team, I always thought, oh, Jim Leland's over there, because he knew he put a good team together. Not only did he give every game everything he had, but he really worked the roster and the team to come down the finish line, and they were always competitive. I believe that's really the last time the Pirates were really a major force. They have a year or two where they pop up every once in a while, but when Leland was there, they were very good and had a top-notch team. And I always liked watching his teams because he always put a good team together, and you knew he was going to give you everything he had. But yeah, he's a good guy, and he's a great part of baseball, and I'm glad he's going in. So next year, we know one guy going in the Hall of Fame next year, so that'll be pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I thought that Country Joe West was going to go in. I don't know how you can leave him out when he's umpired more games than anyone else. So I was surprised he didn't go in. What did kind of surprising with Leland is he's got one world championship, but that was with a bought team.
Right.
That Mariners team, they went all out. They spent a ton of money on free agents. It wasn't a homegrown team. Spent a ton of money bringing in Leland too, and it was manufactured. They won their championship, and then I think it was Huizinga who owned the team at that time. In the offseason, just dismantled it. So I kind of thought that maybe that would uh, hurt him a little bit, um, but apparently it didn't. And I wonder, how can I put this and still run for office? LaRussa's still on that committee, correct?
I don't know if he was on this particular one. He was on one of them. Was this all sports writers? I'm not sure. I'm not sure on this particular one.
I know one of the committees. I think it was an old time committee, whatever they call it.
He was
on
the one that got Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame.
He lobbied to get Harold Baines, and I'm wondering if he lobbied to get Leland, because I think Piniella has a great track record too. Pinella's won one World Series. He managed that Mariners team that won 116, 17 games that one year. He took the Cubs to the playoffs. He took a lot of teams to the playoffs.
He got in a fight with Rob Dibble too. I kind of like that one too. Yeah. He showed a lot of fire. Yeah, and Luke can get thrown out of a game just as good as anybody, but maybe Bobby Cox and Earl Weaver.
So I thought maybe that Leland was kind of a long shot, but he did make it in. And I do believe he's deserved. I mean, everywhere he's been a winner. And I thought it was cool that he faced off with LaRussa in the World Series, and
that's fine.
Yeah, LaRussa made Kenny Rogers wash his hands. That's great. That's great baseball stuff.
He actually got a lot of heat because they said because of his relationship with Leland, he didn't go out there and raise Cain about it. A lot of the reporters here in St. Louis said that. I don't know. Rogers was on that game and he tore us up, but
once he washed it off his hands, he still pitched great.
Oh yeah, he still pitched great. Yeah.
So, and I think by that time, substances on the ball were getting to be commonplace. That's why, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, they had to say no more of that crap anymore. Because let's face it, when you got a curveball that, because you can grip and spin it a lot more and it's breaking 7 feet, you got to do something about that. Baseball had become a game of pitching dominance, and some of these pitchers just are not as good as they were with the substance. So I don't really fault Rogers for that. I think he was an excellent pitcher, and he was just having a great year that year. So, and you guys won the World Series. So,
hey, and that always makes things better, don't it? Hey, Vince, I was going to ask you, the Brewers, I actually kind of feel sorry for them. I know it's hard to feel sorry for another one of your rivals, but they don't have the same kind of finances, the Cubs and the Cardinals do. They're a good organization. They've got a great history, but Council's gone. It looks like there's all kinds of talk out there for some of their players. So they took one of their top minor league player, the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, and signed him to a 8-year, $80 million contract, the most money ever given to a player that's never even played in the pros yet. What was your take on that?
If he is just above average, I'm not talking about a superstar. If he's just above average, that contract's going to look great in about 6 years. What, we got him for $10 million. We still have him for a few more years, and he pops 25 home runs a year. If he's that kind of player, great. If he becomes a superstar they think they are, he may regret signing that 8-year deal. Is there an opt out?
I don't believe so. I
I
believe it's
read it.
guaranteed money. It's guaranteed
Yes.
money.
So, yeah, if he turns out to be the next Mike Trout, he's in year 5 of that contract. So the heck did I do this for? But it is. I mean, he goes out tonight and
You're right.
falls off a cliff and shatters his pelvic bone and can't play anymore. Boy, that's a terrible thought. But something tragic happens. He's got 80 million in the bank. So I would do the same thing.
I think it's a good move, especially for a team like the Brewers. They can take this kid now and make him the face of the team, and try to build a team up with him. And that's great. That's what you need. The fans, they kind of click with these guys. I don't know. For me personally, I like the guys to stick around a long time. And you can take when you were a kid, you could watch a player and then you get married and take your kids and you see the same player playing in the same uniform. I just love that. I like when guys stay. Like, I hope Judge stays a Yankee. I hope Trout stays an Angel. I like that. I know it's impossible to have everybody stay, but every once in a while, those special legendary players that just Ernie Banks. Anytime you think Ernie Banks, you think Chicago Cubs. It's just one of those things. So this kid, I hope he has a great career. And I like this, where if you truly believe in a guy, and it's a risk for the team as well, because a lot of these giving a 19-year-old kid $80 million. I know this. When I was 19, if you gave me $80 million, I don't know if I'd be as dedicated as I was when I'm broke, when I'm having to work for everything I'm getting. But maybe he's a special guy.
When I was 19, I had $80 million and I squandered it on McDonald's and women.
Right there. That's why you can't get Vince for $80 million. Right there.
So how old is he now? He's
19? Is he 19?
Okay. When that contract's out, he's going to be 27, 28, and he can really cash in big time.
Oh, yeah.
With 80 million in the bank.
That's right.
Okay, he'll probably spend some of it. So,
okay.
And then after taxes and everything, but he's still going to have 25 million in the bank. So,
that's good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. Very, very good. Very good. The draft lottery also happened and didn't work out good for the Cardinals. They dropped a spot.
We dropped a spot, but we usually don't pick that high. So I think it's a win-win. I mean, it's a crapshoot. Cleveland jumped quite a few spots. I think they were the 10th. As far as record goes, they were 20th best team, I guess you could say. And so they would normally have picked 10th. Well, they moved all the way up to the first spot. Hey, that's the way it goes. And I like that, because a lot of teams and a lot of sports tank, so they get that number 1 pick. And I couldn't even tell you who the number 1 kid is out of high school or college right now anyway. But the Cardinals are going to be picking. They were the 6th. Normally, they would have been the 6th pick, and now they're the 7th pick. So it's about the same thing, apples and oranges. Who knows? And you never know. The baseball draft is such a crapshoot anyway. Sometimes you're taking a high school kid or a college kid, and you don't know how they're going to play in the pros. We've had a lot of successes, and Randy Flores is in charge of our minor leagues, and I think he's done a real good job since he's been in charge of that. But we've had guys in the past, the number 1 pick, that you think, well, at least he'll be on the team, and we've had guys that never even sniffed the big league. Paul Coleman comes to mind. I don't know what happened, but he looked like on his baseball card, he looked like Frank Thomas, but he sure didn't play. He sure didn't play like Frank Thomas. So every team has had that. It's a crapshoot. You never know you just do your best. I hope they go a little pitching heavy in this draft, but we'll see. 7th ought to get us a good pick.
It reminds me of that quote that Billy Bean had with his scouts when they were liking some player because he was physically awesome looking, and Bean was saying, no, we're going to draft this guy. And the scouts were getting mad at him. He said, listen, we're not trying to find someone who's going to model jeans. We're trying to find a baseball player. And I think this is the baseball players. So the Cubs are going to pick 14th. So
that's a good jump for you. Every team went up in our division except us. We went down a notch. But I think way up at the top, Cincinnati jumped to number 2. They're going to draft number 2. So
boy, they're gonna, man, they're gonna be loaded with talent.
They're coming, Vince.
Yeah,
picking 6th. They're trying to build something over there. St. Louis is 7. Angels 8. I see the Pirates and then the Nationals. So that's the picks.
Yeah, as far as the Cubs go, the rumors recycle. Oh, they're in on Ohtani. They're the favorite. No, he doesn't want to go to the Cubs. Then I read another article a day later. Oh yeah, Ohtani wants to come to the Cubs, And then now we're having the Yamamoto cycle and the Tyler Glasnow deal. Apparently, the Rays. This is what one of the things I love about baseball and the jockeying that they do with management. The Rays they're not going to have Glasnow. They're not going to pay him $25 million, so they're going to get rid of him. So the Cubs have made an offer apparently, and the Rays want one of their top 10 prospects, and the Cubs are saying no. And so then the Rays started saying, well, the Reds are now suitors for Glasnow. So the Cubs, oh well, now we're looking at Jordan Montgomery. So it's kind of funny how those things happen. But
oh yeah,
I
hear Bellinger. I hear a lot of stuff on Bellinger too, who he's going to end up with, and the Yankees seem to be one of the teams they're talking about, but you never know either. But it seems like every day Bellinger's headed this way, or maybe he's going that way, or he's coming back to the Cubs. I've heard so many different things. It'll be fun but like you said, when Ohtani gets picked, I think then there's going to be a domino effect because everybody's going to be running around, and because Ohtani fits too, he takes care of your hitting and some of your pitching later on next year. Hopefully he'll be pitching again. So that's good fun.
Did I hear it correctly that Mozeliak said that we're not going to be pursuing any more starting pitching?
I didn't hear him say that. I just heard him say there's anything's possible. I did hear him say he's and this is no breaking news, but Tyler O'Neill, they're looking to shop Tyler O'Neill around, but I think everybody knew that. But I think they're just putting feelers out, seeing what's going to go on. I'm glad the Cardinals grabbed who they grabbed early, because it looks like once this when the dam breaks, it's going to be every man for himself. I don't know what's going to happen after that. So at least we got something right now, and we'll see. I know there's been talk of Mats being dealt. There's talk of Dylan Carlson. So we'll see. I have no clue. For some of the big players, people are wanting some of our big prospects down there. I've heard Tink Kintz's name mentioned a lot, and that other catcher that Crooks kid. So we'll see. But nothing. I did not hear him say that we're done looking for pitching. I kind of heard a few reporters say they're probably going to start working on the bullpen soon. And my wish, if the Brewers are going to just start getting rid of players and kind of start all over again, I'd love to see the Cardinals get that Devin Williams kid. He's a St. Louis kid, and he would really up our bullpen. He'd be like the guy I kind of would want if we could get him.
Yeah, I'm curious how much trading within the division they'll do. If they trade Burns, Williams,
Adames, the shortstop, Willie Adames.
Yeah, I'm not too turned on by him.
Oh, really? I think he's. I don't know. I think he's got some spark to him. He's a kind of a fire plug. But you guys don't need a shortstop. I don't think we need a shortstop. But I think they're looking to see what they could get for him.
Well, I think that I lost my train of thought. Um, oh yeah, the Brewers. I think that the Brewers they'll get rid of Burns, and if like a team like the Cubs blow them away with yeah, they'll do that, but I don't think they're going to do that. But I think that what they're going to do is package Burns and Yelich. Tell whatever team it's going to be a team, a big time team. I'm kind of thinking the Red Sox.
That's who I was
Uh,
thinking too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we'll trade you Burns, but you're going to also have to take Yelich, and yeah, that's what sometimes that's how you get rid of these David Price contracts and stuff like that that aren't looking so good. And you get a hot star and you trade him and you package the contract with someone else, and I think that's what they're gonna do, which would preclude any negotiations with anybody in the Central because no one in the Central wants that Yelich contract. The Cubs are the only team that can afford it, and I don't think they even want to mess with it. They're not that hard up for Burns, are they? No, 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 no.
I like where you guys are. You're about to take that next step, I think. Yeah, I'm interested. This winter is going to be a big winter for y'all to see if you can get over that next hump right there. But you guys are looking really good right now. We
Right
made
now. But you know what? When you look really good in the beginning of December, it means squat.
That's true. That's true. We made a couple little moves. We did some coaching moves. We had Daniel Descalzo play for the Cubs, played for the Cardinals. I always think of him as a Cardinal, but that's where I really seen him play. I believed he played for Arizona and Colorado as well. He's going to be our bench coach this year. And a lot of guys have been coming through. Now they're on other teams coaching Schultz and Skip Schumacher and John Mayberry. A lot of these guys have come through and been a part of the Cardinals. And so now Daniel Scazzo, the spinning table of ex-Cardinals coming through and working with the guys. I like him. He's a nice guy. I don't know what kind of coach he is, but it'll be interesting. And then Yadier Molina. There's been a lot of talk about Yadier coming back and being a coach, but I don't think Yadier wants to give is every single day. So he's sort of like a roving instructor. I think he's going to be down there in the spring training and show up periodically and kind of put one foot in the being a civilian and one foot and still coming in and being a coach every once in a while. Look, Cardinals have had that a lot through the years. Every team does. You got in spring training, I know Ozzie goes down there and Lou Brock and Bob Gibson used to come in and just talk to the players and work with them and things like that. So I'm glad to see Yachty and he'll be around the team every once in a while. And this might lead to him coming back, someday and being bigger part of the family, but we'll see. So that was really the two Cardinal things right there that we did this week. That was it.
Doesn't Yachty have basketball to coach?
He's got a team he owns. Hey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Owns, coaches, whatever,
Yeah, he owns that team. Yeah, I don't know what during the year, it just that last year he played, he took that time off to go down there. And that really, I was like, man, it's his dedication to playing MLB full time it's not like it used to be. So I could tell he's on his way out then. That kind of hurt my heart a little bit because it was on his last year. And that was when Adam Wainwright and him were about to set the record for the all-time starts. And I was like, oh, this would be horrible. That doesn't happen just because Yachty's going to be out watching his basketball team playing.
Oh, by the way, on MLB Network, they just had the Guardians had a 2% chance of getting that top spot.
Wow.
And the Reds, who got the second spot, had a 0.9% chance of getting that first spot. So they had a little bit better second spot, but those two teams need to buy some real lottery tickets tonight because the gods are smiling down on them.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't need to buy lottery tickets?
Well, there's only one man that's rich with charm, good looks, money. That's got to be Jeremy Connor.
It's got to be Jeremy Connor. We got to get Jeremy on this show. I know he's not a huge baseball fan, but I want people to meet this guy. The legend of Jeremy Connor. I'm not kidding you. He is the best podcaster I've listened to. And I listen to a ton of podcasts during the day. He is just so good. So anyway, Jeremy Connor. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. JJ, before we get going, I do have a personal message for your friend, my friend now too, Tony Pruno. Tony, I have finished your book and I need to get your book back to you. And I also have a shirt for you.
All right.
So I'll send you a text and see if there's a time that I can hook up and get you your book back and get you your shirt. And thank you. The book was an excellent read. One of the top 3 baseball books I've ever read, ever colored. One of the top 3 baseball books I've ever colored. No, it was great. So
yeah, he's got a library. I mean, this thing, I bet he's got 150 top-notch baseball books in that thing. This guy, he's a super fan right there.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's like walking into a museum. Yeah. Well, we are going to do a little spotlight here. I am going to spotlight a comical era in Cubs baseball. And JJ, you are going to spotlight
the Anheuser-Busch Brewery owning the team. Those years.
Beer. Okay.
Beer. Yes.
You want to kick us off, or do you want me to?
Oh, please do. I'm interested. I think yours is going to be better than mine. Please go first.
Okay. In 1960, the Cubs had their 14th straight losing year. 14 straight losing year. They finished 60-94. They only played 154 games then. And it wasn't just their 14th straight losing year, 14th straight second division finish. So they wasn't even close to anything. They were owned by P.K. Wrigley, yes, of Wrigley chewing gum fame. And he announced in December of 1960 that the Cubs would no longer have a sole field manager. But the Cubs are going to be led by an 8-man coaching committee called the College of Coaches. You think that sounds like it's made up? It's not. This actually happened. So let me give you a little background on how this came about. In June of 1960, they fired their manager and Lou Boudreau took over the team. Lou Boudreau was a color commentator for the Cubs when I was growing up on WGN, one of the most knowledgeable baseball men I've ever heard. Lou Boudreau led the Cleveland Indians as a player manager when he was like 23 or 24 years old to a World Series championship in 1948. Lou Boudreau knows baseball. But Wrigley went to a backup catcher slash coach named Altape and wanted his input on what they should do about the manager. So Altape said that Wrigley should bring in like 8 veterans from the Cubs organization as coaches, 4 MLB coaches, and 4 that are in the minor league system, and have them coach the team, kind of like what they do today. They try to streamline everything throughout the minor leagues. And this was kind of the concept he was shooting for, which was done with beforehand. I mean, Branch Rickey, that was his kind of thing. But that's what he suggested. So Wrigley liked the idea, but he added a twist. He said, there's not going to be one coach that will fill the manager's role. What we're going to do is we're going to have a head coach, and that head coach is going to rotate throughout the season. And these coaches will rotate from the minor leagues up to the majors during the season and keep rotating so we get some continuity into our team. Now, I guess this sounds like a good idea if you talk yourself into it, but apparently Wrigley was maybe not just chewing the gum, but tipping the schnapps. I don't know. But the original faculty included Tappy, Charlie Grimm, a great baseball man, Goldie Holt. I don't know who Goldie Holt is. Bobby Adams, who could be anybody named Bobby Adams. Harry Kraft, Berlin Walker, Ripper Collins, and Betty Himsel. Okay, of those men, I've heard of Charlie Grimm. That's it. So these were not the cream of the crop as far as baseball men go in baseball history.
Ripper Collins was on the Gas House gang for the Cardinals.
Oh, that's right.
Ripper. I mean, right. I have a base. That's my oldest baseball card I own, so I do know Ripper Collins. But yeah, there's a few big shots, but most of them I don't know.
Okay, so like I said, every coach is going to be a head coach for part of the season. Now, the original concept called for the 8 coaches to rotate through the entire organization from the low minors all the way to the Cubs and ensure that they have a consistent philosophy in play here. But guess what? It didn't work out in the practical world. Wrigley argued that managers are expendable, that there should be relief managers like there are relief pitchers. And so if a manager has been managing, or a head coach, whatever you want to call it, for a few weeks, they can get a little intellectually tired because they've got the weight of everything on their shoulders. So if we rotate this, we'll keep a fresh brain going all the time. So he also contended that the manager system was full of nepotism and there's constant turnover, and it was just like a good old boys network, and he wanted to get rid of that. So how did this experiment work? Old timers, when you mention the College of Coaches who are Cubs fans, like my family members who are older than me, they just, that's a stupid idea. This is how it worked out. The head coach position rotated among 4 different men in 1961. And then in 1962, it rotated between 3 men. And occasionally, the various coaches were at odds with each other. Can you believe that? There were personality problems. And when that would happen, because of this pettiness, coaches would not help the current designated head coach because he was pissed off at him about something. So there got to be a lack of communication because there's no central figure saying, the buck stops here, and this is what we're going to do. With this kind of rotating schedule, when you throw in personality clashes, things just get screwed up. And that's what happened. In 1961, the College of Coaches led the Cubs to 4 more victories than they had in 1960. They were 64-90, the first year of the College of Coaches. Not to be outdone, 1962, they were even worse. They were 59-103. Oh. The Houston Colt 45s, which was an expansion team, had a better record than the Cubs. The Mets were the only team in baseball that had a worse record because the Mets lost 120 games that year, and they had no business being on the baseball field. But that's how bad they were. They were worse than a first-year expansion team and better than another first-year expansion team. In 1963, they kind of decided, okay, this isn't working, but we're still going to do this College of Coaches, but we're going to have a permanent head coach. And we're still going to rotate the other coaches, but there will be one permanent person there. And that was a man named Bob Kennedy. And this year, things worked pretty good. He finished 82-80 in 1963. So Bob Kennedy, who we've all heard of, maybe not all of us, but he went on to be a GM of the Cubs, and his son played for the Cardinals. So in 1964, they still had this Bob Kennedy as the head coach and the rotating coaches underneath him. They went 76 and 86.
There you go.
And in 1965, Kennedy was the head coach for a while. He stepped down, actually stepped up. He went to management, upper management. And a guy named Lou Klein took over. And that year they finished 72 and 90. And by this time, they had had 5 seasons with this college of coaches, and they realized this is not working. Why this experiment was allowed to last more than spring training, I'll never know, but they kept going. Now, there were some people who, there were 32 coaches that rotated from 1961 to 1965. And one of the things that the Cubs did at that time, they made one of their coaches and the rotating coaches, Buck O'Neill, the first African-American coach in baseball. So that was good. And Buck O'Neill was a scout for the Cubs, found Ernie Banks, and Buck O'Neill's just a legend. But this was a talented team. This had Ernie Banks in his prime. This had Billy Williams. This had Ron Santo. They probably would have been better during those years if they would have had a manager. So in 1966, they decided we're going to do away with this head coach thing. We're not going to rotate anybody anymore. We're going to have a traditional manager, have a traditional coaching staff, and we will work it that way. You know who took over the team in 1966?
DeRocher? Was it Leo?
Very good. Leo DeRocher took over the team, 66. Within a couple of years, he had them contending. And in 1969, the Cubs won the division, won the playoffs, and won the World Series. No, they blew it in September to the Mets. So,
but that was a magic year for the Mets. They were just I think there was somebody above pulling them through some of that. That was out of nowhere. They came through that year, but so that was still a good year for you guys. Just the Mets.
Yeah, but anyway, that is the story of the Cubs College of Coaches. Could not have happened in any other organization but the Cubs. And believe me, I understand it. The Cubs get ridiculed a lot.
They do. A
lot of it we've deserved. Moves like this. I was going to do Lee Elia, and maybe one day I will do a spotlight on Lee Elia, who after a loss said 90% of the world works for a living, the other 10% come to Wrigley Field. So,
Classic,
yeah. So anyway, that's the College of Coaches for the Chicago Cubs in the early to mid 60s.
Vince, thank you. That was great. I only had heard that name, but I tell you what, that's an experimental thing. That's still a long time ago. And, there's so many things in baseball people have tried, and that one didn't work. If it worked, I guarantee you half the other league would have been doing it too. So,
oh yeah,
they just stood back to see what was happening and see if it would work,
Yeah.
Well,
as I was just going to add, in sports, I mean, there are businesses that operate not top down, but kind of a teams. We have different teams, and we have the head of each team, but it's not like it's a top down type organization, and that can work in some businesses. It's not going to work in baseball. It's not going to work in any sport, because you have to have that person who is going to take responsibility from everything, from the start of spring training until the end of the season, stand in front of the press and take the bullets. When you rotate, yeah, it's you're going to have different personalities. You're going to have dominant guys. Your next coach may be more laid back. And certainly it was, I don't even think it was a good attempt. I just think that Wrigley was not a baseball man, because he owned the team forever and never won anything. And when the Cubs finally, got sold to the Tribune, they started making a little bit of noise. And now with, I hate getting old because I can't remember things. Who owns the Cubs now? Jeez.
I don't know.
I do. Ricketts. Sorry.
Is that who owns it?
Ricketts? Yeah, the Ricketts family.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I will say this though about the Wrigley family. They did keep the team there. I'm sure they were making money. Chicago's one of the major cities in the United States. I mean, where else would they go? But they did keep the team there, and there were some great players through the years. Um, my my thing I'm going to be doing is about the Brewery owning the team, the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. The Cardinals have only had 8 owners in since 1882. That's pretty remarkable. We had 5 from 1882 to 1920, and then that's where we got a lot of stability. Once 1920 came around, a man named Sam Breeden owned the team from 1920 to 1947. I mean, that's when we're having the Gas House Gang. We won some World Series. We're starting to get good. Cardinals didn't win anything until 1926, and it was under Sam Breeden that we finally won a World Series. So he had this team most of his adult life, and near the end, he had prostate cancer, and he was going to sell the team. And he had the team for 27 years, and there was a guy named Fred Saigh. I'm going to say. So Fred Say was going to buy the team, but he wanted a minority owner, somebody he knew and could trust. And there was a St. Louis businessman by the name of Robert Hagen he made the minority owner and was going to sell the majority to Fred Say. Robert Hagen was he was a big prominent businessman in St. Louis, but he also was a former U.S. Postmaster General. So, he had a lot of clout in the United States anyway, but in MLB. But then he also got sick, and Fred Say owned the team outright. He had the majority ownership anyway, and he owned the team from 1947 to 1953. Well, Mr. Say did not pay a lot of his taxes and got caught for tax evasion, and he was going to go to prison. And MLB said, you have to sell the team. Now, at that time, Detroit he was selling the team in 1953. Detroit was booming. They wanted a second baseball team. Houston wanted a baseball team. And there was another area that wanted a baseball team too. I had it written down somewhere in here. And so there's 3 teams three cities that wanted the baseball team. The Cardinals, I did not know this, but from 1920 to 1953, they played at Sportsman's Park, but the St. Louis Browns owned Sportsman's Park, and the Cardinals had to pay the Browns rent to play there. And they was always wanting to buy a new team, but something came up. They couldn't find the right place and the land and things like that. And Detroit was pretty much set on buying the St. Louis Cardinals, and they were going to spend about $4.5 million. And this was in 1953. So so he's about to sell the team, and at the last minute, Augie Busch and the Anheuser-Busch Brewery step up, but they were only going to be able to pay $3.7 million. And Say thought the Cardinals needed to stay here, and Augie said, "We're going to fix the stadium up. We're gonna get a stadium, and we're going to fix Sportsman up while we play there." And so he agreed to sell it to Augie, and he really could have made a lot more money if he sold it to Detroit. But thank God the Brewery stepped up, came in, and bought the team for 3.7. And the first thing Augie did, and there was a lot of stress with the Cardinals because the Browns were trying to run the Cardinals out. Bill Veeck did not want the Cardinals here. He was trying to get them out of town. Evidently, there was some politics going on. But Augie went ahead and bought the Sportsman's Park, and it was only a year later that the St. Louis Browns leave for Baltimore. So now we're the only team in town. So the Brewery had the team for 43 years, and they fixed up Sportsman's Park, but all along they were trying to build a new stadium. And in 1966, the Brewery built Busch Stadium. And if any of you've seen any pictures of St. Louis in 1966, that area that Busch Stadium is now sitting, it was like an abandoned part of town. The buildings were old, the windows were knocked out. It just wasn't a very nice area of St. Louis. But at that time, they started building the ballpark. The St. Louis Arch was also being built, and they finished about the same time. And that whole area of St. Louis is just revitalized over all these years. It's really come to life. Even when I was a kid and I would go to Busch Stadium, if I parked by Union Station and would walk down to the ballpark, there were some shady areas between Union Station and the ballpark, but now it's a pretty nice area there. But at the time, from the Mississippi all the way out to Forest Park, it was a pretty rough area. So that whole area downtown, you can't even imagine it, but it's really revitalized now and a nice part of town. So the brewery comes in, they do that. They build the stadium. Uh, and Augie has just, I think just the continuity of having one owner, and he's sitting there and he's setting the stage for everything. I don't know if he was a great owner, but he got the Cardinals here. Red Shanks was the manager for a long, long time, and I think we had a lot of success. In the 50s, we had a lot of great players, but we didn't have a lot of success. In the 60s, a lot of young guys came together, and the Cardinals was one of the few teams that had a lot of African American players, Hispanic players, and white players. It was like at the time when everything was kind of coming together there. We had some 3 World Series and 1 World Championship. The 70s, we came just kind of a middle of the road team because, man, playing those teams, and there was 4 giants in the National League, and but we had some great players to watch. And in the 80s, of course, there near the end of Augie's life, he wanted to have another go at it, and he pretty much turned the reins over to Whitey Herzog, who was the general manager and the manager. And do or die, it was going to go happen with Whitey, and he ended up doing a great job. And we had 3 more World Series there and 1 World Championship. And then Augie dies in 1989, and that was a sad time because the Brewery still owned the team, but Augie wasn't there to run it, and the family didn't seem to care as much. And so right there at the end of the time, I think it was 96. They in the winter of 95 to 96, they sold the team to the DeWitt family, who still owns the team to this day. But he bought the team for basically $4 million, and I have how much they sold it for when they turned the team over in 1995. They sold the team for $150 million. So how's that for inflation, Vince? 4 million to 150 million. That's a nice pickup right there. I know it's not the 80 million you had, but that's pretty darn good. So
Yeah.
anyway, Fred Cy was never again a part of. Oh, Milwaukee was the other team that wanted to buy the Cardinals. So it was Detroit, Houston, and Milwaukee, and they were estimated willing to spend about 4.2 million, but the Cardinals went for 3.7. So that's pretty good. And thank goodness they came in and got the team. And some of the things that happened in that time, like I said, they revitalized the St. Louis area. We had 3 World Championships in all those years, and 6 pennants in that time that the Breweries had the team. And it was just a nice time. And so many names and things happened. KMOX radio in that time became part of the organization, which was a big part of the fandom of the Cardinals, because they could almost touch coast to coast, and people who weren't around a major league team and couldn't watch them on TV got to hear Harry Carey and Jack Buck, and then later on Mike Shannon call the games. So I think that's one thing that's really helped the Cardinals through the years. I'm not saying we're the best organization, but we're one of the flag bearers of baseball. I think it's the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Cubs and the Dodgers and the Cardinals and the Giants, teams like that, kind of like the old school teams that's been around forever. So anyway, that's my thing on the Brewery. I learned a lot by doing a lot of research on it. And I just think Augie Busch is just one of those special guys that kind of saved baseball in St. Louis. So we've been gone, and it might be years before we got a team again. So that's it. Any questions, Vince, on that?
I was just going to add, Augie was a baseball fan, and was it what was the son's name who kind of took over?
Oh, I was it. I don't know. I honestly can't remember his name.
I can see him in my head because he used to do commercials, but yeah, they just weren't into baseball, and they hired Dow Maxwell and gave him tremendous spending limitations, and it was not a good deal. And then when DeWitt bought the team, I remember I was in a meeting, and the guy leading the meeting talked about how DeWitt bought the team, and he was this lifelong baseball man. I thought, oh, that's probably going to revitalize things, because when your owner's a baseball fan, it makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Um, and there are people who own baseball teams that have no interest in baseball. It's just financial thing for them. But I think that if the brewery, well, the brewery don't even own the brewery anymore. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
true.
but if they wouldn't have given up and sold the Cardinals, then would have been, eh.
Back in those days too, they were those placards at the stadium for cigarettes and different little companies and things like that, and beer. But once the Cardinals, I know they wanted to name the stadium Budweiser Stadium, and they said no, you can't name it after a product. This was back then. So he said, okay, we'll name it Busch Stadium after us. And then they later on, after they said okay, they had a Busch beer that came out that they kind of outsmarted them there a little
I did
bit.
not know that. That's cool.
That is pretty cool. And then they had all the commercials because Busch beer are beer companies in general are advertising with every major sport. You see the placards. It was really just a great advertising gimmick for the brewery too. And of course, to this day, we still have the Budweiser or the Clydesdales are still a part of the our history. They come out on opening day, or if we make the playoffs, maybe next year we'll see them again.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It's kind of sad to me is when you go down Grand and you get to Grand and Didier, where Sportsman Park was. I think there's a sign that says where sports. This was where sports was, but there's not much there. And that neighborhood, they're trying to revitalize it a bit, but it fell on some rough economic times. Um, but when you think about the city and people, they think, well, you're a Cub fan, you don't care about the city. No, I really do care about the city. I live in it. Okay. I live 30 miles south of it, but St. Louis is my home. When you think about the city, with the ballpark downtown and now with the soccer stadium, because the football team moved out, which was also a big draw downtown, the soccer team, they've apparently done that stadium right. When you go, uh, what did I go to the Fox? Oh, I went to the Fox to see Steve Martin and Martin Short. And coming home, they had a soccer match that night. And going through an area, and I don't go downtown much anymore, but going downtown in an area that used to be, and there's not much going on here. They're letting the soccer match out. The crowd's leaving. It was like, gosh, there are tons of people down here now. This is awesome. And so you're right. The 70s, the 60s, 70s, downtown area started to get a little bit decayed, and it's coming back. So, well, JJ, I guess we have to open baseball cards.
Yeah, we have to. We have to. It's in our blood. I actually have a Navy friend that watched the podcast, Ozzy, Robert Osborne. We called him Ozzy, but he sent me. This is one thing I love about the podcast, Vince. I get gifts almost every week. This is so nice.
Nobody gives me gifts.
He sent me, he knows a friend of a friend of a friend, but he got me Danny Jansen from the Toronto Blue Jays. He signed 2 baseball cards and he sent them to me.
Wow.
And when I was in the Navy, Ozzy stood in line. Now he was a 23-year-old man at the time. He stood in line at a toy store, and a wrestler by the name of Beetlejuice was signing autographs. Stood in line for 2 hours to get me an autographed picture of Beetlejuice. So Ozzy, I love you. Thank you so much, and I appreciate these. And these will have a nice home now. So anyway, I had to give him a shout out right there. But Vince, I'm opening your favorite cards, the Allen Ginter cards, the one that had that actor from several movies. They even had a card of him on here, or you might get a card of a hot dog or something like that. These Allen Ginter cards. Let's see.
Oh, I can't wait to see this.
Yeah. Oh, who the heck?
Who is Allen Ginter, and why is he screwing up the baseball card world?
Yeah, the guy. There's a show on ESPN where the reporters sit around and argue with each other. Bomani Jones, he got a baseball card. What the heck? I thought this was the guy, Montel Williams or whatever, the guy who did the paternity suits, on the show. I thought that's who that was. Well, okay. Now we're getting baseball. Now we're hitting some baseball here. Beautiful card. These are the 2023s. Mr. Clayton Kershaw, Hall of Famer right there. Yeah, one of the all-time greats. I hope he stays with the Dodgers. Oh no, who the heck is this? I don't even know who that is. All right, here's one. Tony Gwynn. Beautiful cards. But I'm not crazy about the back. It's all that like old English writing and it's written out instead of just the numbers. But the front cards is so nice, you kind of forgive him for that. There's Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn, I saw this stat the other day with 2 strikes on him, hit 302 in his career.
That's amazing.
If you hit 250 with 2 strikes, you're hitting really well with two strikes. To hit 300 with 2 strikes is unheard of. Nobody does that nowadays. But anyway, go ahead.
Why do I buy these packs, Vince? I tell myself it's like eating White Castles. I get White Castles every 6 months, and then I swear I'll never eat them again, and then they draw me back in. And this is what these Allen Ginter cards have done. I don't even know who this is. Tyson McGriff. Who the heck's that guy? Some guy in a wife beater right there. Well, anyway, he got a baseball card. I don't get a baseball card.
Didn't you bring White Castles to an open mic one night?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I remember that.
I paid the price too. I will say that. And then they got one, Music to My Ears, Temple Blocks. I don't even know what the heck that is. Vince, I don't know. Does it go like that? I can't tell.
I don't know.
No more Allen Ginter. No more Allen Ginter here.
That's it?
Yeah, you only get 5 cards and they're like 350.
No, you only get 2 cards. The rest are garbage.
Oh, hey, I did get what before you get to yours. I have some Cub stuff here. On that updated set, they had a Matt Mervis card. This is his first Cub card, the Matt Mervis card. But there's 2 of them. There's one that's got the date right here. It's got the date he played his first game. But this one, it doesn't have the date. I'll have to do a little research, and the card looks a little different.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. They make the cards a little different, so there's different values to them. But I'll find out which one's worth more. And I also got Corbin Carroll's first card. There he is.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I throw that in there because I was opening on a Ginter, and I knew I'd get a clunker or 2 there.
Well, I am ordering the Dondras Leaf 1992.
Ooh, nice package.
Yes.
All right, 1992. That was a good year.
It was a good year for this man, Omar Vizquel.
Oh, yes, the defensive wizard himself.
Jim Campanis. Don't know anything about him.
Wasn't he the Dodger management guy who said some things on Nightline?
That was
got
Al
kicked out of baseball?
Campanis.
Oh, Al Campanis.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the back of these cards.
Oh, I do too. That's a much nicer.
Yeah. Oh, former Reds pitcher, Ted Power.
Oh, yes. I remember him.
Ted Henry Power. Oh, former outfielder for the Brewers, Darrell Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, he had a nice career. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like a 3rd or 4th outfielder.
Yeah. Orioles pitcher, Jimmy Poole.
I remember the name. Couldn't tell you anything about him.
I do remember this guy's name. Not that he ever did anything tremendous, but I just never heard a guy name this. For the Tigers, the pitcher, Jerry Don Gleat.
I do remember that name.
Former Met, former Met, I think he's a Dodger too. Darryl Boston.
Oh, yes.
My gosh, this card's got to be worth a lot of money.
All right, here we go.
I heard his child is doing something really cool. I got Pat Mahomes.
Pat Mahomes, yes. Rated rookie. That's his rookie card right there. It says at the top. Ain't it?
Ambitions in life to father a child who once won Super Bowls.
Yeah, there you go.
Former Brewer, former Dodger, Franklin Stubbs. No,
Nice
wait a minute.
player.
It was a red.
I knew Brewer too. Brewer is what I remember.
Dodgers, Astro Brewers. Yeah, I don't think he ever wound up with Reds. The captain of the Yankees, he's playing for the Brewers now, also started his career with the Pirates, Willie Randolph. Played with the
I did not.
Dodgers.
I did not know he would start with the Pirates.
Yeah, I got to start with the Pirates. Oh my gosh. I finally got a Hall of Famer. Mike Lucina.
Oh yeah, Moose.
Doug Piat. Pate?
No, no.
Um, Forgetting.
Mm.
Former third baseman, Jack Howell.
I vaguely remember that. Padre.
Uh, yes. And pirate catcher, Don Slott.
Oh yes.
And another Hall of Famer, the
Hey.
Big Hurt, the guy who has erectile dysfunction, Frank Thomas.
He's hanging out with Andy Van Slyke.
Look at that smile on his face.
Oh yeah.
That one did something that all me.
That's a
Yeah,
man taking a blue pill right there.
yeah. I'll sell those pills, but anyway. Hey, thank you. I want to apologize on behalf of Major League Baseball for having a very slow start to the winter meetings, that we didn't have a whole lot to talk about, but hey, we had fun anyway. Once again, Tony, I'll get you a text. I need to get your book back to you, and I need to get your shirt to you. Remember, the free agent contest.
Oh, we just have one. We have only had
Nothing else has happened.
Nothing else. Troy Lou, my a friend of the show, Troy Lou, is winning that one. He's the only one with 1 point. Nobody else has any other points.
Very good. And next week we will have trivia. So Max will be back. We'll be doing trivia, and hopefully, being next week, we'll have one through the end of winter meetings. We'll have a lot of stuff to talk about, not only with our teams but with Major League Baseball. So, thank you, and we'll see you next week.